Hey cats, how you doing? Zane Banks here, and we're going to do part one of the Q&A video that I put out a call for the other day, see if you had any questions. So we'll kick it off. As I said, we'll do this in two halves because there are a couple of questions on Instagram, and I'll just start with the ones that are on YouTube. So let's go with the first one. Jesse Marshall said, you can only use one guitar and one amp for the remainder of the year. Which would you choose? I'm a Tele man at heart. So it would be my Telecaster, and I would probably just choose my deluxe reverb. Pretty straightforward. Having said that, my New Year's resolution was to really get acquainted with Strats. I got a bunch of Strats at home, and I've never really connected with the Strat before, and so I'm just forcing myself to understand it intimately, like all of those great Strat players, and it's been really, really enjoyable, and that's why the Strat's been featuring a lot in the videos that I've been doing, because I just bring it with me everywhere I go. But if I had to only pick one, the Tele, that's my go-to. I can do everything on a Telecaster that I need to do. Question number 2, this is Paul Joyce saying, I was wondering if you have any country tunes that you think are good learning benchmarks for country playing. In the same way, read more, in the same way that something like Rhythm Changes teaches you a lot about jazz soloing and harmony in one song. Keep doing what you're doing. That is a very good question, Paul. There are a number of country standards that I would say are good to know, and they almost form templates that a lot of songs are sort of based off. For example, knowing a blues, we'll call it a 12-bar blues or a 24-bar blues, but it features heavily in country music. So, Folsom Prison Blues is 12-bar blues, Long Walk Back to San Antone is a 12-bar blues. I should say 24-bar blues is the Folsom Prison one. But then there are a number of ones that use changes 1-4-5 is really common, and that would be songs like Heartaches by the Number by Ray Price, it's a great Willie Nelson song. An Empty Bottle of Broken Heart, You're Still on My Mind, George Jones tune. Oh gosh, there's a lot that use that sort of 1-4-5 sort of structure. There's a lot that go 1-4-1-5, like Swingin' Doors by Mel Haggard, Crazy Arms, also by Ray Price and Willie Nelson. There are a number of ones that sort of sit on the 5 for a while. So The Bottle Let Me Down is one where it goes it's in the key D, and it starts on the 1, D, and then it goes to the 5 pretty quickly. Stays on the 5, so you might get 3 bars of 1, 4 bars of 5, then 1 bar of chord 1 again, and then that's your 8 bars done. Achy Breaky Heart does it as well. It's A, and then it goes to E. That's another good one. Songs like White Freight Liner hang on the 4 for a while, and most of the singing's done up on the 4. I think it's in G, so it's that white freight liner, da, 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 I mean, it's all using essentially just the same 3 chords. It's cool to sort of play a couple of those Hank tunes that use 2s in them, Hey Good Lookin' has a turnaround of 2-5, which is less common. But in that standard honky tonk stuff, it's just different arrangements of chords 1, 4, and 5. If you get more into Western swing, songs like Bubbles in My Beer, Roly Poly, that's when you start seeing the occasional chord 3, and 6 come into it a little bit. This is a great song. I think it's a Mel Till song. What is it? Borrowed Angel, which has a number of has a 6. It's her hair just so da, da, da. Excuse the tuning. Feels just like silk. That's chord 6 on my arm. Da, 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 da. She don't belong to me until the day. So they start to borrow more from jazz concepts, and when you get to that C sharp 7 chord, there's a really important note. There's an F in that chord. Well, technically it's an E sharp if we're going to be classically, theoretically correct. So if you're going to play those changes, you've got to be aware of that, so you can get that, that just there. Start with those tunes, and then the more country songs you learn, you'll just realize like, oh, that's kind of just a variation of Swing and Doors, or that's just a variation of, this Hank song. Like, they're all pretty similar. The same goes for jazz and bluegrass as well. You open up a real book and it's overwhelming, and then you realize that a lot of the tunes just use very similar chord progressions in that standard bebop, Tin Pan Alley sort of style of writing. Let's see what we got here. Chase Williams. Howdy, Chase. What guitars do you have in your collection? What are your faves? And what's the most expensive? I've got a pretty modest collection of guitars, of like guitars that I would actually play. I mean, over the years I've had a few. Like, I'm not going to count like any Squires or Epiphones or that I got kicking around from when I was a kid. I've got 3 Strats. I've got this one, which is like a desert sand sort of custom shop that has an anodized pickguard. I put Sliders SRV59 pickups in it recently, which I did a video. I'll probably do a review on that too. This has like really, really jumbo frets. I don't know if you can sort of see, but it's almost like a scallop fretboard. It means I can really wiggle on the strings hard. My other Strat is like a 1961 Japanese custom sort of guitar, which I bought off a local Sydney guitar player called Matt Morrison, who's a great player, and he does repair stuff, so that's a really cool one, and it's got, I think, Texas specials in it. Then I've just got a standard USA Strat from when I was a teenager, which I don't really use. I got 2 Tellys. Got my number 1 you guys have all seen with the Barden pickups, and I've got a Nashville Telly that is with my good friend Mr. Charlie Finn, who you should all check out. He's a great singer-songwriter from Ohio. I've got 2 SGs, just like one kind of entry-level Gibson SG, and then a nice sort of, I think it's a 1963 reissue. It's like a kind of Dwayne Allman style sort of one, but it's not his signature model one, but that's really nice. I got 2 Les Pauls. I got a 1960 reissue, which is a classic, and just a standard Les Paul, like a 91 or 92. That's the wine red one. I've got a Martin HD28 Dreadnought, which is a weapon, and I've got a Tasman slope shoulder Dreadnought, which they gave me, which is a fantastic guitar. Really good sort of mid-level, expense sort of guitar if you want to go and get something, take it on the road. It's got built-in pickup, which is really good. I got a couple of classical guitars. I studied classical guitar really seriously for many years, and I've got a Simon Marty spruce top, which I bought off Slava Gregorian when I was a student. That's good. The most expensive one I have is the Smallman and Sons guitar. So Greg Smallman and Sons is probably still the most sought after classical guitar maker around. He makes John Williams' guitars, and this thing's amazing. It's like a Bosendorfer or a Steinway. You should check him out online. I don't play it as much as I should, because I don't really play classical guitar at all these days. Don't have time for it. But they are my main guitars. I've got an Epiphone 335 strung Nashville tuning just for like session work. But that's it. I get everything. Basically, I get everything done on my Telecaster or my Strat. Let's go on to the next question. What we got here? Are there any jams in Sydney worth checking out? Just moved up here and looking to see some pretty heavy players around. There is the Monday Night Jam, which has moved around a little bit. I think might be at Lazy Bones now, or it might be at Butcher's Brew. And that usually kicks off, I think, around about 10 and goes into the early hours of the night. That's more of like funk, fusion, sort of soul, kind of neo-soul vibe. Not a lot of country sort of stuff. I haven't been for years. But there's some heavy players that go down to that. A lot of the cats that play on things like The Voice and play with big touring sort of pop artists will pop in. Before COVID, that would be a regular jam where, if Lady Gaga was in town, her band might go and have a bit of a play afterwards. There is another jam that happens, I think it might be on a Tuesday, again at Lazy Bones, which is more of a jazz, like hard bop blues sort of thing, and that often it will be like Sam Rawlings, Clayton Doley, who's a heavy organ player, Andrew Dickinson on drums, and a couple of like locals will sort of just get up and play, and then you can put your name down. But they're the only sort of jams that I'm aware of. There are a number of regular gigs that are definitely worth checking out where, you know, if you befriend someone, you can probably get up and play. My brother, Zane Banks, aka Steel and Hearts, the pedal steel player, he runs a regular gig at the Duke of Enmore on Enmore Road from 4 till 7 every Friday. And the bands vary, but it's usually in that country blues, honky-tonk, rockabilly, jump blues, western swing kind of vibe. And he's a well-connected guy, and yeah, good people play at that. So there's always a vibe, and there's always good picking. They're the ones that I'm sort of aware of. Yeah, let's go next one. What do we got here? Andrew says, "Hey Zane, how would you approach soloing over a tune like I Saw the Light?" I Saw the Light, great song. There's a couple of different approaches you can do to playing over a song like this. Essentially, I Saw the Light is just like a gospel song. And in that old-timey gospel tradition, if you were playing at an old-time jam or a festival, the expectation would be that you played the melody. Those kind of traditionalists get really sort of miffed if you don't stick to the melody. So they would, I think it's in G, so they'd expect, you that was pretty faithful. So you could dress it up with it. So I'm adding a couple of licks and everything. That would be my first go-to. I think the melody is obviously the most important thing. Then you could dress it up with licks. So, you know, whatever it's over G, it lends itself more, if you're doing it in that kind of traditional Hank way, of the sort of to more of a western swingy kind of thing. So kind of really simple pentatonic major, think Charlie Christian sort of stuff. If you had a second chorus or a second solo, then you could maybe deviate away from that, and you could get more into like points. Anyone can guess what I just quoted then. So and I'd follow the chords, or if it's more of like a real kind of honky tonk, then you can bust out your licks. If you're going for a lick thing, follow the chords. Don't stay in one key. That's my advice. When it goes to C, that's where you're going. When it goes to D, that's where you're going. And even if you are going to do all your kind of fancy lick, jazz, country, whatever it is you're going to play, it's pretty hip every now and then to actually play part of the melody. Kind of tip your hat. Also lets everyone in the audience know that you know where you are in the tune. All right. What do we got? We got any more questions here? What cool ideas can you apply over a 2-5-1 progression? This is from Jay. This is a big one, so I might just sort of touch on this briefly and then maybe put a link to a couple of videos down here. Man, you know, how long is a piece of string, essentially? Over a 2-5-1, you can play whatever you like, but you just have to know how you want to resolve it. The main thing to keep in mind when you're playing a 2-5-1 is to have an idea of what you want and how you want it to end. You know, I've heard Bruce Forman, the great Bruce Forman, talk about how, you know, like takeoffs and landings, you know, when you're flying a plane, and your licks should be kind of similar to that. You know, it's no good if a pilot knows how to take off. Landing is just as important as taking off and flying. In some respects, it might be even more important. So having an idea of what you want to say and how you want to wrap it up, and where you want to wrap it up, on which note of the chord and which beat, is crucial. because that is going to govern what it is that you can do. When I play over 2-5-1 chord progressions, it's never just a loop of a 2-5-1. Like, a song will be made up of in jazz, for example, it'll be made up of multiple 2-5-1s, okay? And so I'm sort of looking at like, okay, here's a 2-5-1 that goes to this key, and then there's another one that goes to this key. And sometimes they'll just be like chains that piggyback on top of each other. When I'm thinking of a 2-5-1, I don't think about the 2, because the 2 is contained within the 5, right? In the key of C major, D minor 7, and G7 are the same note, or the same chord, right? Just a different bass note. So if I play a D minor 7 and I put a G in the bass, I get a G7 sus4. So essentially all a 2-5-1 really is a sus4, 5 sus4, then resolving to 1. Right? So by cutting out the 2, I don't have to think about it. It just frees up real estate in my mind that I can focus on other things. And I do that in tunes as well. I cut out a lot of some of the chords that I don't need to play over, and I just think about the simplest harmonic structure there is. And then it frees me up to just kind of cut loose. And I can put in substitutions, I can put in extra chords, all that kind of stuff if I want, but I don't want to be told that I have to play that, because it kind of puts me in a box. So yeah, once I've got that, then I would be thinking, again, like what I talked about in the previous question, is there a really strong melody from the actual song that you're playing over the 2-5-1 that you could use as, like, you know, the Grundgestalt, the Germans would say, like the seed of the artwork that could then lead into other ideas or other licks or other motifs. But yeah, like, you know, I just sort of tend to hear, I want to outline the harmony, but that's not the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. The most important thing is the melody, okay? And striking that balance between playing a melody that's really cool, that people can recognize and get hip to, but isn't so vague that they don't know what the chords are underneath. So kind of trying to hear that, if I've got a bar of D, bar of G, and 2 bars of C, I want to just play like a couple bars of 1, 2, 3. Sorry about the buzz notes in there. It's winter time down here and it's pretty cold. Alright guys, I'm going to do another video of these. I've got a few questions on Instagram that I'll come back and answer. But hopefully this has been helpful. If you got any other questions, drop a comment here and I can do a third video if there's a bunch of other things you guys want me to cover. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. Please hit subscribe, hit like, tell your friends about it. You know, it's a cool place to hang out. It's free guitar lessons. You know, if you got any questions, I'm here to help you guys out. So take it easy, cats, and I'll see you next time.